First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk. Great topic today, guys. A collaboration. A lot of people talking in this one, even some new people. And we're going to be discussing what do you expect from a rookie CO on the first day of their job. So whether you're a senior correctional officer, senior staff member, what is it that you expect from the new people coming in? And it's a great topic. A lot of people that follow this channel, they're new and they want to know. And I think it's a great question to ask because that's giving respect to us, people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, you know, and I think it's a question that also is humbling. Because again, just the amount of respect, that means that you actually care for our input. That means that people are looking for that experience. They know it goes beyond the book. And this channel is going to provide them with that experience. So when we come back from our sponsors, that's our topic. Topic could be, what do we expect from rookie COs the first day on the job? Now guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, you brave men and women that work in corrections. So please, subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell is going to notify you every time I post a video. Stand by for our sponsor.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Thank you guys for listening to our sponsor. Now, this is a great collaboration today, good video. A lot of good perspective coming here for that one question. What do you expect from that officer on the first day at the job? And it means something to us. The fact that it was asked, yes, but we jumped on this. This is just a great question. For me, I'm gonna focus on that transition between the academy and the first day, but you're gonna get a lot of different perspectives. And even if some of the information may duplicate itself, it's still a different perspective. And how we interpret that perspective based on our experience may provide a different outlook to what it is that we're answering. So for me, the academy taught me a lot. And I know a lot of people say, well, the academy, you can't take everything. It gives you a foundation. So if you don't have that foundation, the knowledge that you're going to get from that first day walking in the prison or the jail is going to be hard for you to apply that. Because you have to be able to place that knowledge somewhere. So there is a partnership. There's a baseline that you get from the academy partnered with the experience that will kind of fit in with what you've learned in the academy. But I want people to notice that it is a partnership. And at no point are we to minimize what's offered in the academy. And at no point are we ever to minimize the experience behind that wall that is very important to the training that these new boots are getting. So right off the bat, if you're a new boot, pay attention to both worlds. Pay attention to what's being given you in the academy, but then when you go into the profession on that first day, see how you can apply that knowledge to what's being given to you from that experienced officer. You know, you have a great foundation now. So how are you able to fit that in to what you've learned? Some cases, it's sad to say, but sometimes there seems to be that beef between some of the academy instructors and those senior staff members. Sometimes the academy is always up in the training, maybe doing some stuff that's advanced that the senior officers really never got a chance to go back and learn. So when these new boots are coming in, some of these new boots may feel that they're at a higher level of training. And sometimes you have these academy instructors that are, you know, reinforcing that by saying, yeah, they're not being taught this, this, and this. We're totally different than it was 10 years ago. You know, this isn't a competition. This is about teamwork. And you don't want to start the rookie off in that way where it kind of builds a little bit of a divide or a little bit of a competition. You want that employee to be humble, that person coming in, which means that you want them to be open to the experienced officers when they apply that knowledge. So you want to kind of open up the scene with just like, hey, you guys are going to be given a lot of knowledge here. You know, a lot of it is new. But with that said, it's to be partnered with experience. So when you get behind that wall, there should be a healthy exchange of information. Always a healthy exchange of information. But it's an effort to respect and recognize each other. Because new people, you're going to bring energy to the job. You know, that's great. Senior people want that. But you're also going to bring a new look on things, and you have a lot of senior staff that may be stubborn in their ways, but you have some that want to hear about that, want to know about that, because they know that this profession is evolving. It's about learning something new every day, so they're going to be open to that. But in return, give them that respect in return. If they have something that's experienced based on them walking that walk, based on them working at that facility, you cannot minimize the value of that. That's way beyond the book. And the sad thing is we're losing out on experienced officers giving us that good information. So we need to hold on to that as best we can. And when that's offered, treat it like gold, because it is. So I guess my piece of advice is find that balance between what you're learning in the academy, or what you have learned in the academy, to what's being given your way through the experienced officers. That's key. Find that balance. All right, Keith, what do you got?
This is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. I'd like to discuss today what I would expect from a new officer their first day on the job. Now, I'm going to come at this from different perspectives. I'm going to come at it from the perspective of someone who worked as a line officer for almost 18 years, and someone who was a line lieutenant and a line captain for almost the same amount of time. When new officers come out of the academy, when I was a blue shirt, when I worked on the line, I expected that officer to know the policies and procedures. I expected them to know the 303, which is the Wisconsin guidebook for inmates. Now, I didn't expect them to know how to deal with inmates, how to handle inmates. I knew that, like every officer that comes out of the academy, they're going to be anxious, they're going to want to get that first bust, they're going to want to write that first conduct report. But they're also going to be scared. Any officer who tells you that the first time they work by themselves, or even work OJT, that they aren't scared and nervous, they're really not telling you the truth, because I can remember my first day, and I can remember I was shakier than a beagle crapping a peach pit. So I'm going to expect that officer, as a blue shirt, if I'm his FTO, and I was FTO for a number of people, to listen to me. Now, I'm going to ask input. I'm going to ask them questions. Now, I'm not asking questions to trap them or to embarrass them or whatever. I'm asking them questions because I want to find out their level of knowledge. Now, I know they know the rules, the policies and procedures, things of that nature, probably better than I do as someone who is an old veteran, because it was just pounded into them for the past 6 weeks. But now, they're at the institution, they're on the line, and they have to learn how to practically apply those rules, how to practically apply the policies and procedures. I'm going to watch them, I'm going to help them, I'm going to guide them. Now, looking at it from a supervisor perspective, whenever I got a new class of recruits in, usually we'd start 6 or 7 at a time of new rookies starting. I'd always bring them into my office and I'd talk to them. And I let them know that I have an open door. I let them know that as their supervisor, I felt it was my job to help them succeed and not watch them fail. I also told them I expected them to do their job. To do that, as a new officer, one of the biggest things you have to do is listen to the officers you're working with. Now, some of them are good officers, some of them are bad officers. You're going to soon figure out which is which. Remember, you can learn as much from the bad officers as you can from the good officers. For example, a bad officer. A lot of people think that generating a lot of conduct reports or a lot of inmate write-ups, that shows you that you're doing your job. Looking at it from a supervisory perspective, I have a whole different view of it. The old adage I always use is, if you can't run it, write it. If you're talking to the inmates, if you're communicating to inmates, if they know what to expect out of you, you're probably not going to end up writing a whole ton of conduct reports. I knew officers that thrived on writing conduct reports. They would write an inmate up for taking an extra spoonful of sugar at breakfast. They would write an inmate up for not having their bed made properly. You know, these are all things you can talk to inmates about. These are all things that you can mention to them. Give them a written warning, whatever. Not everything deserves a conduct report. And that's something that needs to be driven through to new officers. Now, when you work with a bad officer, you're going to learn. You're going to learn what officers are bad. They're the ones that are always calling supervisors, asking for help. You know, I could always tell when an officer wasn't communicating with their staff. When I would go down there and they would ask me a question, and it would be the same thing that the sergeant told them, but they basically didn't believe the sergeant or didn't want to hear the sergeant because they just, for whatever reason, maybe didn't trust them. I don't know. There's a lot of good sergeants out there. I had one sergeant in particular. He and I are friends to this day. Ex-Marine, Vietnam vet, the whole works. He wrote probably 2 conduct reports a month. He had the cleanest inmate housing unit in the institution, bar none. Why? Because he could handle things on his own. He wasn't abusive. He never did anything physically abusive to the inmates, whatever. But he would come up with creative punishment. At that time, inmates were still allowed to smoke. We had an outside rec area behind each housing unit. And he would tell an inmate, okay, well, you didn't make your bed today. I'm going to give you a warning for not making your bed. And if you go out and give me 100 cigarette butts off the rec area, we'll call it even for the day. And guess what? Those inmates would go out there and they'd pick up those 100 cigarette butts and they'd make their bed from that point on. So as a new officer, sometimes you have to be creative. Now, don't think because an older officer gets away with it that you're going to get away with it. It's something you have to earn. You have to earn the respect of your fellow officers. You have to earn the respect of your supervisors. And just as importantly, you have to earn the respect of your inmates. Now, there's a difference between fear and respect. Inmates can fear a person, but that doesn't mean they respect them. I had bosses that I can say ran the institution by fear, but myself or none of the other supervisors or the subsequent subordinate staff respected that person. So what do I expect out of a new officer? As a fellow officer, I expect them to come in, do their job, and have my back. As a supervisor, I expect them to come in, do their job, and have each other's back, all the while letting them know that I will have their back as well. Until next time, this is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Until next time, stay safe and watch your back.
Howdy, folks. Izzy Gallahue here. Just a little bit about me. I've been in corrections now for almost 13 years. Just knocking on the door, not quite there yet. I've been an FTO. So my suggestion for folks just starting out, or even those folks who've been in for a little while, is be proactive with your career. Be involved. Don't sit on the sidelines and hope somebody else will do something for you, because that's not going to happen. You have to make things happen for you, and you have to have that desire to want to make things happen for yourself. Also, learn all you can about the career. Get involved with folks who've been around for a little while. They're just a wealth of knowledge, and hopefully they will be willing to share that with you. And most folks who've been around for a little while would, welcome you to come and ask them questions. And also, don't be afraid to step out and do things that you see as right. In this profession, a lot of what we do, perception is everything. If you're perceived as weak, you're going to be treated as weak. If you're perceived as strong, you're going to be treated as if you were strong. But that don't mean by any means to go out and be a jerk to population. You can do your job without having to, be a jerk when you go into work. And try to be consistent every day. That means a lot to that population. And one thing, too, that stuck with me when I first got in was the HR lady who hired me said, "Don't ever allow anyone to call you a guard." And that has resonated and stuck with me my entire career. I don't even let my mother call me a guard. Don't allow anybody to do that. That's an old, antiquated term. And just think about it, as I was saying about perception. What do you think of when you hear the word guard? We are so much more than that. We are everything to these, to the profession. We're counselors. We do provide safety and security. But don't let, that perception be carried on. That we're guards, and hopefully we can change the overall perception of our profession. I guess that's all I've got for now, so I hope everyone has a blessed day and be safe.
Hey there, Tier Top fans. Russ Hamilton here from Keepers of Chaos. Anyway, Anthony Gangi asked me to make a short little video, the subject of which is what does a senior correctional officer expect out of someone who's brand new. It's their first day on the job. So anyway, let me tell you, I've had the pleasure and privilege of getting to train, cadets and brand new people a lot of different times throughout my career. And the one thing that always stands out to me are the ones that do two things. And these two things are asking questions and taking directions. All right. You go in there and you go to the academy and your head is filled up with all of this stuff, right? And then you come in there on your first day. Well, let me tell you something. That's a transitional and very important period for you, because we go from the theoretical to the practical application of whatever's been put in your head. And it's going to take a while for you to make sense of it. And we want to do everything we can to help that along. Now, way back in the day when I started, it was much more of a sink or swim process. You were kind of left to your own devices. I mean, there were literally weeks that went by that hardly any senior staff at all would talk to a guy like me that was brand new there on the job. And you know what? It was a really bad idea to do things that way, right? That's the kind of thing that can get someone hurt or worse in a situation like that. So when I have someone that's asking questions and taking direction, I'm willing to spend a lot more time and effort and knowledge with them, because I see that they're engaged in the process. They're transitioning from that cadet into an officer. And, what we really want to do is we really want to we want to shortcut that as much as we can, so that you go from cadet to officer to journeyman in as quick a time as possible. That's good for the department. It's good for you. And it makes for long, safe careers doing it that way. The one little tip, and I mean, I've written this out literally probably a few thousand times in different forums over the years and stuff. If you're a brand new person and you're showing up and that's your first day, take a look around. You know what? Start figuring out who the guy or gal is that's an expert in gangs or handcuffing or searches, contraband interdiction, firearms, report writing, whatever it is. And those subject matter experts pick their brains and become an expert in everything that you can, over your career. But find those people, seek them out. You know what? If you're not sure who it is, ask someone. They'll tell you, hey, you know what? Yeah, John down there, man, that guy knows how to find weapons. And go and spend some time with him, right? That's what I like to see, is people that are seeking out that knowledge and then going from getting the knowledge to practically applying it, right? For those of you that are out there that are training these people, don't be that individual that's not going to give them the time of the day. Invest something into them, right? You want to reap that reward. People that are engaged in this particular profession, that are out there and happy to be there, are going to be more productive, more effective, and that translates to better security, right? Better safety, and, just an overall better teamwork where you're firing on all cylinders. And if something does go bad, man, then you've got that integration, that working together, that teamwork to be able to back things up and get yourself out of that jam. Let's not go to that thing in the past where it was just every man for himself until you became one of the chosen few. That doesn't work, people. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. I'm going to leave you with 2 quick little tidbits, 2 quick little fast stories. I'll make them as quick as I can. Okay, my very first day, showed up on the job. We were supposed to have a week of orientation, but instead we had to do emergency searches because some officer was going by an inmate's cell and the inmate asked him to pass some coffee to the next guy. It was in a little styrofoam cup. And he poured it out, and there was a little black piece of plastic down in there. And lo and behold, guess what? After they pulled those guys out, it fit the security lights. I think there were 7 shanks in each of them. This was on death row. So that gives you an idea of the gravity of the situation that we were facing there, right? So, as a brand new boot, I was I was glad, because that day I spent with a couple of officers that really knew what they were doing, and we were bringing guys out from their cells in handcuffs and stuff, and not a good situation for someone who's very, very brand new to be in. All right. But I took it to heart, and from that day forward, you know, man, I always wanted to be on the lookout for weapons. I always wanted to be on the lookout for anything unusual, just like this one officer was in that particular situation there on East Block Death Row. So, and then the second thing that happened my second week on my very first actual shift, where I was actually, you know, working in a position, and, I had showed up, and I walked up. I think I was on the 4th tier that day, and I was plenty early because I wanted to get all the dope and stuff from the, you know, guy I was relieving. So, you know, he'd run everything down to me, and I'd make sure that, you know, I didn't make any mistakes and stuff. And he just looked at me, and, you know, I think he was shocked that I was there like about 30 minutes early, and he just dropped everything and without saying a word walked away. All right. Why would you do that to someone in any situation, let alone on death row? Don't be that person, man. Trainers, train them up right. You know, whether you're, you know, official at it, or if they're just there in your unit for the day, do your best. Let's pass some good stuff on to these people. And those of you coming up through the ranks, be eager, you know, be willing to, you know, do the things that are asked of you. Anyway, this is Russ Hamilton. Hope everyone out there is staying safe. I'm signing off.
So when Anthony sent this question to us, when he asked us as senior officers, as veteran staff, what do we expect from a rookie on their first day, I thought I had something right away, right? Something popped into my mind, but the more that I thought about it and what my actual expectations were of them, I decided I needed to take a couple of days, and I actually took the question to work with me. And over the last couple of days, I've been asking some of my fellow officers, some of the guys that I've been in the battlefield with for several years, and their response kind of threw me off a little bit, right? So I asked them, I said, hey, what do you guys expect out of brand new officers, out of somebody just coming out of the academy? What do you expect from them? You know, I assumed that I was going to get a lot of, I expect them to know policy and procedure, and I expect them to follow the rules and regulations, but I didn't get any of that. What I got was nothing. That the majority of officers that I talk to today expect nothing out of brand new officers, out of rookie officers. Now, let me explain a little bit, right? When I say that they expect nothing, I don't mean that they expect them to do nothing, right? What they mean is they understand that what they learn in the academy is kind of the nuts and bolts of the whole thing, right? But it's a lot different than when you step onto the yard, or when you walk that tier, or when you walk through that day room for the first time. It's a lot different. There's a huge learning curve, right? And so they expect them to want to do the job, to have a willingness to do the job, to be a part of the team, but they understand, because they've been there, that they have no idea what they're getting into. Right? That just because they sat in a classroom, just because they've shadowed an officer for a little bit, they know that they don't know anything. And so their expectations of them are nothing. And I just found that oddly honest, because that's sort of how I felt at the beginning too. And so on my way out today, I talked with one of our training officers. This is a guy I've worked with for 15 years, right? The whole duration of my career, he was there. He was one of the reasons that I'm still a correctional officer today. The things that he showed me, that he said to me, the way he carried himself when I first started, I said, man, I gotta be like that guy. I gotta be able to navigate this system like he was. Anyways, I digress. I asked him today, I said, hey, as a senior officer, what do you expect? And his answer was even more out of left field than the nothing that I got from everybody else. His answer was, I expect them to be scared. I expect a heightened level of anxiety, right? He expects that nervousness. And all that being said, he also expects them to do the job that they were trained to do. Now, knowing that they don't know the whole thing. They're not going to be 100% prepared for what they're going to encounter. But I just thought that was kind of neat, actually. The honesty, the expectations of the senior staff was that they expect nothing out of the newer officers, and they expect that trepidation, that fear, that anxiety, and they understand that. And last, I'll wrap up with this. I spoke to one of the officers, a good buddy of mine, Seth, and this is a guy I've blood, sweat, and tears with over the years. He told me, he was one of the guys that said I expect nothing out of it, but he told me that he felt it was part of his job, his responsibility, to help mentor these officers, to be an example for these officers when they hit the floor, because he understands the learning curve, right? He understands the gap between training and what actually happens inside, and that sentiment was echoed throughout the building today, was that senior staff is willing to help and to reach out to these rookie officers, these brand new officers that come in, because we understand what it was like when we first got to the floors, when we first stepped out into the yard. We understand that. And now, a decade, 2 decades later, we understand that we knew nothing when we first stepped into our brand new shiny boots with our brand new shiny badge. So do me this, if you're a old salty senior veteran like myself, go around the next couple of days, spend some time talking to some of your comrades in the facility and ask them what their expectations of the rookie officers, what their real expectations are, what they expect them to know. And if you're a brand new officer, if you're a rookie coming out of the academy, getting ready to hit the floors, look, we understand that there's a huge learning curve. All right? Spend some time listening, watching, talking to the veteran officers, the guys and gals that have been there for a long time. Take the good things that they do, leave the bad things that they do, inform your own way, okay? You'll be okay, and we'll be right there with you. All right, guys, until next time, be smart, stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk soon.
Hi, Constantine Alleyne here from the Civilian Corrections Academy. A very interesting question that Anthony posed, which was, what expectations that you would have of a new officer? For me, having worked with newer officers, my expectation is that they're going to ask a ton of questions. I mean, here's our reality. If you've never worked in a facility before, you have no idea how that academy training translates in the facility. Yes, I do think they do a great job in the academy trying to make sure officers are prepared for the realities of any facility, but every facility has its own culture, its own bureaucracy, its own politics, its own inmate population, and the level of sort of service that's provided in that particular facility. So new officer shows up on post, I'm expecting that officer to ask a ton of questions. I'm expecting that officer to be pretty close to his supervisor, because honestly, overconfidence as a new officer could be deadly. That's a fact. I also would expect for a new officer to be engaging of the people around them who have been there for a long time or a longer time, who can share their insights and kind of help them to learn and grow from their own experiences. I mean, I think we've all made mistakes, and we've all had to either do what we need to do to reconcile those mistakes. But sometimes when you come in brand new, sometimes people are just nervous. They don't know what to do. They don't know the right questions to ask, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I would expect for officers and staff that have a little more tenure to really reach out and support that new officer in his new role, right? The reality is that in the facility, there are so many things that are specific to a facility, that are specific to a post, that even if I've worked at a facility for X amount of time, but I've never worked on a particular post, I've got learning to do. So just to think this person is brand new, they really have no idea what they should or should not be doing. I expect them to be close to whoever their partner is, close to whoever their supervisor is, and asking tons of questions. Now, I've had the experience of having brand new officers come on post, whether it's in the medical unit or if it's in the mental health unit, and having to go through and kind of talk about my expectations, right? If you hear offenders in rooms calling and you don't have nurses responding, like, I need you to call me because clearly something's going on that may need a higher level of intervention, right? Understanding that, yes, this may not be your job, right? But when you're on post and something goes awry in the mental health unit or the medical unit, I mean, anywhere for that matter, it's just a little more challenging in those specialized housing units that officers have to be on point and they have to be responsive. And it's not about, that's not my job, that's the nurse's job. No, there are some things that you may see that it may cause you to escalate. So nurse is not responsive, officer needs to do that. So I've actually had to sit with officers and say, so here's what's going on in the unit. So communication, absolutely. I would expect to be communicating directly with the officer and the officer being able to communicate directly with me. I think when we add these levels of, so yes, there is an appropriate chain of command, right? And that's never going to not be present. However, I think when there is a new officer on post and they're uncertain of certain things, that they should be able to go to whomever they feel most comfortable with until they learn the appropriate chain of command. Particularly when I have new officers working in any of the specialized units, if there's something that's going on that's beyond normal operation, I do have them call me directly. And that way, there is no trying to fix it on the back end. It is up front, you're involved, the communication is there, there's that transparency, and we're also building that relationship up front. So what I would say to a newer officer or a newer civilian coming into the facility is know that you don't know everything. Know that each facility has its own culture and that it has its own levels of bureaucracy that you'll have to learn how to navigate, and that the people who work around you, that they've been there for some time, tap into them as, resources, because they are there and they can provide support. Ultimately, yes, you are responsible for doing your job, but if you don't ask the questions, we also don't know what kind of support that you need. So just be safe out there. Err on the side of caution. You're uncertain of something, don't take an action, just ask a question. That's all you need to do. So for new civilians, new officers, I wish you the best of luck on your correctional journey.
Good afternoon. Gary Cornelius here, making a video for Tier Talk and Anthony Gangi. And Anthony, as always, thank you for allowing me to have some input on this. The topic today was senior staff and the new training, the new trainee, and what to expect and so forth, that dynamic. And I'd like to bring up a couple of points that I've given some thought to. The first aspect of this I want to talk about is respect. The training officer should respect the new correctional officer, not look down on them, not be condescending, not being smug, here's the rookie, and so forth. The new correctional officer has made a career choice. They have chosen to enter the field of public safety, of law enforcement, of keeping us all safe, dealing with people that are locked up in a building that don't want to be there. It's a dangerous profession. That choice has to be respected. The second thing is that the training officer should respect the talents of the new generation of trainees. They are very knowledgeable in technology, in computers, and so forth, and that has to be respected. The third thing is their enthusiasm. The best trainees I've encountered, even early in my career when I was training them, or helping out as a basic instructor at an academy, was the enthusiasm. And you could tell the ones that really wanted to learn, that really wanted to do a good job. That has to be tapped into. That has to be brought out. The other thing of respect is for the training officer is to respect the opportunity given to you. You have an opportunity to be a mentor. You have an opportunity to train, to improve the agency, and most of all, leave a legacy. Because when you leave the agency and the folks that you have trained are left behind and they're coming up as supervisors and good officers, you've done a really good job. So respect that opportunity. The new correctional officer should respect the training officer. The training officer can guide that new officer down the proper path of professionalism, not towards the inmates who are waiting and targeting the new correctional officer to manipulate and so forth. The second aspect is learning. The training officer should support learning all the time. Talk up the in-service training classes, the webinars, the online training, whatever venue it's given. Training officers need to support that. And also they should realize that the academy and OJT, on-the-job training, work together. A narrow-minded training officer would say, well, you know, that's the academy way, this is my way. The academy curriculum now in corrections is very, very good. And I can attest to that because in my teaching post-retirement career, I'm a basic instructor. And I've seen a lot of improvement in the curriculum. The training officer should learn from the new correctional officer. They might have another way of doing things. They might ask a question that no one's thought of. And the new correctional officer should learn from the training officer, that experience. And if training officers are well selected for their experience and professionalism, you're going to have a good core of trainees, and you will have good officers. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good week, and be safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
What a senior officer expects from a rookie on the first day on the job. Great question that I was asked by Anthony Gangi of Tier Talk, who asked me to give about 4 minutes worth of my opinion on that. Hi, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. That's a great question. And I'm going to start from the very beginning, the basic thing. Come to work on your first day at the jail or the prison to meet your senior officer who is assigned to you for floor training, and have your uniform presentable. Have it ironed or pressed. Don't worry about what everybody else does. Look presentable. Have your boots looking good. They don't have to be a high shine, a medium shine, clean. Okay, they may get dirty later on. They probably will many times, but your first day on the job and every day, set that tone on your appearance. Have a good haircut and be in regulation with your agency's policies and procedures on your mustache and beard. Some agencies do not allow a beard. Some agencies do. Make sure you are within regulation. And come to work that first day looking sharp. Don't worry about anyone else. This is you, and your first appearance is going to be an impression that will last with the officers for a long time, and the inmates. The inmates will also look at how you look and how you carry yourself. Now, I've been asked to hold this about 4 minutes, so let's get out of that area and move into what you're going to do with your senior training officer. You're going to listen and learn. You also have your senior training officer advising you throughout the day and instructing you and showing you and asking you to do things hands-on. When your senior instructor tells you this is the way it's done here at our prison, at our jail. This is the way our policies and procedures say we do it. Please don't look at your senior officer and go, well, that's not the way they taught us in the academy. In the academy, they said, do it this way. Nah, that is a turnoff. Your senior officer is supposed to be assigned to you because he or she knows exactly what they're supposed to do, and they've been picked to train you because they have proven they know what to do. Don't talk about what the academy taught you. The academy is great. It forms a foundation, a base for you to learn from. But now you're in the real world, folks. You're in the jail. You're in the prison. Listen to your senior officer. Don't try to tell them this is what we were taught in the academy. Okay? Now, the other thing is, don't be a know-it-all. I mean, how can you come in on your first day, your first week, your first month, your first year, and know everything there is to know? And we have people like that. You have to learn every day. 28 and a half years I retired from corrections, and I was still learning new things the day I walked out. So there is no room for know-it-alls. Listen and learn. Listen and learn. That's the way it works. There's so many things your training officer has to teach you. They don't have time for the way we learn in the academy or a know-it-all, and I think it should be done this way. You're there to listen and learn, and that's about the best advice I can give you. These senior officers are still there for a reason. That's why they're called senior officers. Maybe they've been there 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They're still there for a reason. They haven't gotten in trouble. They haven't been terminated from their job, and they are assigned to you because they know what they're talking about. Listen and learn. When you get off probation, if you want to try to stumble and trip and fall on your own, go right ahead. But listen, learn the policies and procedures also. Your senior training officer will be more impressed with you wanting to learn the policies and procedures of your agency and being quiet and listening, and then showing hands-on when he says, go ahead and do the feeding. Now you're going to feed today. And you actually feed the dorm yourself with him or her supervising. Or you need to escort this inmate from the dormitory to medical in handcuffs. And you do that job. I'm just making a couple of examples. You need to get this inmate ready for transport. Let's see if you know how to use the black box. I've shown you twice. Now you're going to do all this on your own. Show them you know. Don't speak out about everything you know. Show us you know, and you'll have a much better training experience, and you'll get a much better report from your senior training officer. Please stay safe. Please listen. Please learn. And please show them you know how to do it. Thank you very much. Gary York, True Prison Story.